My name is Annie,
And my name is Ariel.
and we're here to share with you our research initial ideas for Kindred, the app where friends and family show up for birthing parents. So before we begin, I just wanted to share a bit of context about why we chose to focus on this topic of support for birthing parents. So I'm personally interested in how communities come together and build stronger connections, and Ariel is passionate about women's health and reproductive justice. And while neither of us are parents yet, we both have plenty of friends and family who have become parents in the last couple of years. And so this does hit home for us a bit, and we're excited to share with you what we've learned and hope you end up learning something new or insightful along the way. So in the US, every year, nearly 4 million people give birth. Just to give you an idea of how many people that is, that's approximately the entire population of Los Angeles. So what comes after giving birth is a major transition in many ways. Childbirth takes a physical, emotional, and mental toll on the birthing parent, not to mention an existential shift for first-time parents who have taken on a new identity overnight. Of the 4 million who give birth, about 600,000 people, or 1 in 7 birthing parents, are diagnosed with postpartum depression, a mental health illness that is the most common medical complication of childbearing. This can be a new onset of postpartum depression or exacerbation of existing symptoms. And there are a number of factors that increase the risk and severity of postpartum depression. One that's often cited across different groups, including the National Library of Medicine and the American Psychological Association, is isolation and lack of support. So here's Phoebe, first-time mom who's about 6 months postpartum, and recently relocated to a new city where she didn't have any friends or family nearby. She didn't realize she was experiencing postpartum depression until she and her husband were able to hire a part-time nanny after the first 6 weeks postpartum. She said it was one of the best things she could have done for her mental health because she had no idea how hard becoming a parent would be. And Phoebe's not the only one we heard this from. Here's Sam, the first-time dad. He said, "We were losing our mind, and I had no idea what to do with this baby. We were both exhausted and very ill-equipped." Another mom we talked to, Lisa, said, "The decision fatigue is real, especially in the first few weeks. There are all these decisions that you have to make." And Maria, another mom who had her son a little over a year ago, said, "New moms don't know what to ask for because they're so overwhelmed. They're like deer in headlights." And as we spoke with more and more birthing parents, their partners, and the people around them who were supporting them, about 20 people in total, the same 3 words kept popping up. In the early weeks and months, parents feel overwhelmed, exhausted, and isolated. Let's take a quick look at what's happening in a first-time birthing parent's journey to postpartum, the period after giving birth. Everyone's experience with pregnancy is different, of course, but in general, first-time parents in prepartum, in other words, before giving birth, are to varying degrees excited, nervous, gathering information, and trying to learn as much as they can about preparing for their baby. In the third trimester, 3 months before birth, a lot of final preparation is happening. So they're gearing up for the arrival of their baby, getting things in place, and making last-minute purchases. After giving birth, their life changes overnight, and they're now in the postpartum period, often referred to as the 4th trimester, the first 3 months after birth. And the weeks following childbirth are a critical period for a birthing parent and their infant, setting the stage for long-term health and well-being. It's a really steep and uncomfortable learning curve. There's a lot of uncertainty, unpredictable schedules, and adjusting to new routines with a lot of sleep deprivation, all while having to constantly make decisions they've never had to make before. And all of this on top of trying to heal and recover, deal with dramatic hormonal changes, and learning how to feed and care for a newborn. And after 9 months of care, support, and services, it all comes to a screeching halt once they've had the baby, except for a few follow-up visits. So families are typically left to figure everything out on their own. And first-time parents could really benefit from practical information, physical and emotional support, and encouraging community. So why do so many birthing parents struggle with these things? This is what we focused our research on, and after several weeks of interviews with both first-time parents and experienced parents, as well as expectant parents and people in their support networks, there are some themes that emerged. So this is Hannah, who's about halfway along in her pregnancy, 21 weeks along, and she just moved to a new city in the Midwest. In her mind, she had thought about postpartum. She was preparing for labor and delivery, she was coordinating with her team at work to take leave, but she had never heard of the fourth trimester before. So it wasn't even on her radar, and she was surprised to learn that it was something that she should probably think about ahead of time. And she said, I wasn't familiar with considering resources for not just the baby, but me. Like, oh yeah, I might need some help. I might be lonely. And while she and her husband have signed up for a few classes that were recommended by our doctor, they're more focused on caring for the baby, such as CPR classes and feeding. Another mom we spoke with, Natalie, said she also had no idea what the fourth trimester was. Now here's Jenna, an Austin-based doula. Doulas are birth workers who are hired by birthing parents and their families to help navigate the prepartum and postpartum experiences. She said, the best analogy I've heard is that people spend so much time focusing on the wedding and then they don't think about the marriage. A lot of families are almost tunnel visioned on the birth. And more importantly, on a larger scale, the US healthcare system places a greater emphasis on the care and safety of the baby than that of the birthing parent. So the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists wrote, in the US, the postpartum period is devoid of formal or informal maternal support. So this led us to our first insight, which is that birthing parents focus primarily on preparing for their baby and less so on their postpartum care and recovery. There's a lack of awareness and preparation and therefore support. And not only is it hard to conceptualize what life will be like once the baby's here, but birthing parents are so concerned about taking care of their baby that they often deprioritize their own fundamental needs. This is especially true for first-time parents. So the focus on constantly meeting the baby's needs leaves little room for parents to care for themselves. And because of this, the parent's physical, mental, and emotional well-being is likely to suffer. So here's Maxine, a first-time mom based just outside of Austin. And she said, asking someone else to take their precious time to come sit on our couch while we go sit in the booth. I know my friends mean it when they offer to babysit, it just hasn't felt comfortable to take them up on it. So she's describing how it can feel like she's burdening somebody or imposing on their time when asking for help. And here's Sasha, first-time mom, who got candid about the difficulty of asking for help. She said, if I ask for help, I'm being vulnerable. And then if they don't help me, it's like they're letting me down. So I don't want to be let down. This led us to our second insight, which is that asking for help feels risky for birthing parents because they're putting themselves in a position to be judged, disappointed, or rejected when they're already feeling vulnerable. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. But the reality that in the US is that the most prevalent family model consists of two parents and their child or children as a family unit. And here's Nellie, a stay-at-home mom. She takes great pride in her role as a caregiver, and she says, I took on this responsibility myself, so I need to face the consequences that come with it. And this led us to insight 3, which is that birthing parents in the US have internalized the prevailing culture and values of rugged individualism, making it even harder to ask for help. So rugged individualism values and promotes being able to do everything on your own, pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, and to some extent, having to kind of suffer through whatever you choose to do for yourself. And now for another quote from Sasha, she said, my brother's idea of helping was holding the baby for 10 minutes. And I remember my spouse and I had a conversation about how it'd be more helpful if you just walked the dog. We heard from a number of people that while their friends or family might offer what they think is helpful, sometimes the timing or type of support doesn't always align with what they want or need in that moment. So this led us to our fourth and final insight, which is that friends and family want to be supportive, but they don't always know how or when to be most helpful. And so our key insights, just to recap, is that parents over-index on preparing for their baby's arrival. Asking for help feels especially risky for birthing parents. Birthing parents believe they should be able to do it on their own. And friends and family want to be supportive, but don't always know how. So when you have less focus on the birthing parents, postpartum care and support, an aversion to asking for help, and the belief that tending to your own needs should come secondary to your baby's, and then you have friends and family who aren't there to help, what you have is an incredibly stressful postpartum experience that is exacerbated by a lack of social support. So given this, these were the opportunities that we identified based on our research. We want to encourage birthing parents to prioritize their postpartum care and recovery. We also have the opportunity to highlight benefits of connecting with sources of support while sharing the potential risks of not asking for help. And finally, we want to be able to facilitate communication and coordination between birthing parents and their support network. Now, before moving forward, we found a few existing solutions meant to support birthing parents with postpartum planning. This is an example of what exists out there. These are multi-page PDFs that are postpartum care plans that have been created by experts, healthcare experts, doulas, and moms. And while the content is relevant and vetted by experts, no one's really using them. No one we talked to even mentioned any of these care plans. And when we ran a quick experiment to see whether just having access to these resources would be valuable, the two biggest takeaways we had were that many people were confused about what to do with the resource, and they couldn't imagine themselves sharing the plan with others. Some of these plans were 14, 15, 20 pages long. Now here's an example of something that friends and family are putting together for a friend that just gave birth. Here they're organizing what's called a meal train, where people can sign up to drop off meals or send food delivery gift cards to new parents. And while this is functional, it seemed inefficient and tedious to manage with manual scheduling and updating. And we also heard from one person that something like this can be easily forgotten. So with so many baby and parent-focused products and services in a very saturated market, we did a competitive analysis of existing solutions, and all the ones we were aware of were either did not focus specifically on birthing parents or did not make communication or coordination easier. So we saw an opportunity to better facilitate the transition for postpartum for birthing parents through both learning about and preparing for the fourth trimester in manageable ways, and communicating and coordinating with their support network. And based on all the things that we heard from people we talked to, these are the principles that guided us as we thought about what could be different. So we wanted to celebrate the parents too, have community support at every step, facilitate the face-to-face, offload the mental work for birthing parents, and have a bias toward action. Because we believe it should be different. We believe that birthing parents deserve to prioritize their postpartum care and support and feel supported in doing so. So that no matter what their circumstances are, birthing parents should be able to leverage the resources that are available to them and feel encouraged to put their oxygen mask on first.
So this is where Kindred comes in. Kindred makes it easy for birthing parents to plan for postpartum so that they can communicate and coordinate the support they want and need. So to make this vision a reality, the first step is identifying their support network and gathering their village so that after their baby arrives, they get the care and support they need when they need it. So here's Mia. Mia is a first-time parent in her third trimester, and her sister-in-law actually tells her about Kindred and that she had a lot of success using it. She had a great experience postpartum, she felt supported, and she kind of knew what was coming in the fourth trimester. So there's two primary attributes that make Mia an excellent candidate for Kindred. First of all, she is motivated to learn about postpartum, and secondly, she is eager to connect with her community or to build a sense of community. So Mia goes ahead and downloads Kindred, and she sets up her account. So she completes a very simple onboarding process, including entering in her due date. And while Mia is on the home screen, she selects Learn to learn more about postpartum. There, she's able to watch brief videos about postpartum, short and informative stories from other birthing parents, as well as articles and podcasts. So later that day, while Mia is cooking dinner with her husband, she tells him that she downloaded this app called Kindred and watched a few videos and read a few stories about postpartum. She tells him that she learned that there's, first of all, something called the fourth trimester, which is the first 3 months after giving birth, and that she watched a video about that outlined that having a community of support can actually reduce the severity of postpartum depression symptoms. So that prompts them to begin chatting about who is in their support network and how those people might show up for them in the fourth trimester. So a few days later, Mia gets a notification from Kindred saying that it's time to start thinking about gathering her village. So she opens up her home screen, she clicks into Gather, and from there she's able to easily add people to her village just by searching her contacts. Next, Kindred asks her, who will you reach out to? So Mia can then select people from her village to add to each scenario. So here's an example of one such scenario. If I had to go to the hospital, someone who could help with pet care would be blank. And Mia is able to select as many people as she'd like from her village in this section. So for example, this is sort of a low stakes situation where Mia would trust a variety of people to help with this task. So a few days later, Mia gets a notification from Kindred that it might be time to start reaching out to people in her village. So she opens up Kindred, goes back into the Gather section, and Kindred prompts Mia to first watch a video about the importance of communicating the support that you need. So Mia is able to choose someone from her village, and she chooses her friend, Jess. Mia is then able to easily modify a template message to send to Jess regarding reaching out for support. She's able to personalize this because it's a friend of hers. She wants to use her own words, but this gives her the kind of thing that she wants to say. So based on what we've learned in our research regarding the lack of awareness about the fourth trimester, the need to prioritize the birthing parent's well-being, and challenges in asking for help, we created the concept of Kindred to help birthing parents navigate these important first steps to take charge of their postpartum experience. So with Kindred, we provide small, manageable steps for expectant parents to prepare for postpartum care and support by providing bite-sized information about the fourth trimester. Our goal is that by being able to easily access stories, information, and resources, birthing parents will feel more informed, aware, and empowered about postpartum. Also, our overall goal is to reduce the cognitive load and mental fatigue that birthing parents are often experiencing. We also provide prompts to identify who they might lean on for postpartum support, including scenarios that help them think through what postpartum support might look like, where they can easily visualize who they might lean on in specific situations. And we incorporated these tools to make it more tangible, to conceptualize what support might look like. And last, we provide guidance to make it easier for birthing parents to reach out for support. So we do this through tools such as template messages that they can personalize and send. So in order to create this prototype, we needed to isolate and test for the riskiest variable, which we identified as whether or not expectant parents would reach out to those in their support network. So we set out to learn how might providing expectant parents with bite-sized information about the fourth trimester impact whether or not they actually took action to prepare for postpartum. So we created a second experiment, which consisted of texting our participants each day via Google Voice for 3 days, as well as conducting a follow-up interview to learn about their experience. So participants were prompted to complete an optional activity each day, and then send in a voice memo or text describing whether or not they took action, and if they did, what was it like? If they did not, why not? So on the first day of the experiment, we provided a short article, video, and fact sheet about the fourth trimester. One of our participants, Hannah, told us that even after day 1 of just learning about the 4th trimester and the importance of reaching out for support, she was thinking about preparing a list of ways to ask for help after the baby arrives. On day 2, we asked our participants to fill in the blanks of a few scenarios in sort of a Mad Libs format to think through who they might lean on in the 4th trimester. So here's one example of what we were sending out. One participant told us that she feels really supported already, and she feels like she has a strong community to lean on in the 4th trimester. She said that her husband, her mother-in-law, and friends who are also pregnant comprise her support network, and she's looking forward to leaning on them postpartum. And finally, on day 3, we asked participants to use and personalize a template message to reach out to someone. So Hannah told us that she reached out to her in-laws about support, including her sister-in-law, who's also pregnant, and she feels really grateful that they're actually going to be able to experience postpartum together. And during our follow-up interview with Hannah, she told us she initially felt anxious when she realized she hadn't started prepping for the 4th trimester. But once she actually reached out to people, they had great responses and were really reassuring, and she felt a lot better. So having this nudge and light guidance from Kindred prompted Hannah to reach out and ended up reducing the initial anxiety that she felt. So our takeaways from this experiment are that our early adopters would be motivated to plan for postpartum and willing to engage with or build their sense of community. We also took away that bite-sized information and small nudges to take action can indeed help expectant parents reach out to their support network. So, by preparing for postpartum in the prepartum stage, Kindred users would be able to easily communicate and coordinate care and support with the village that they've gathered. So our future vision for Kindred is creating shared visibility into what the birthing parent needs when they need it. So this would include features such as a calendar view to make it easier to request and schedule acts of care and support. We also envision the ability to easily send out requests to people in their support network, including auto-populating requests for people who aren't exactly sure what they need, as well as the ability for people in the support network to easily opt in to the types of care and support that they actually want to provide. So if Annie and I were to move forward with Kindred, this is what we would be doing next. As we mentioned earlier, doulas are already doing this very important work of helping birthing parents to plan for postpartum and to feel supported during this very dramatic transitional time. So after speaking with a couple Austin-based doulas, we feel that there's an opportunity to pilot Kindred with them and to test it out with their clients to better understand how could we iterate even further on our existing prototype to deliver a valuable experience for birthing parents. And if our larger vision for Kindred were to become a reality, our hope would be that more birthing parents would get the care and support that they want and need in postpartum. And in doing so, demonstrate that asking for help is more an act of courage than a sign of weakness. Thank you all so much for listening. Before we adjourn, we just wanted to say that working on this project really gave us a lot of perspective about how we might best show up for the friends and family in our lives who are recent parents, as well as an enlightening experience as far as what actually becoming a parent might entail. Thank you so much, and we look forward to hearing your questions.